Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're unpacking something absolutely crucial, an architectural blueprint for building a bulletproof financial institution. Think about it. When you build a house, you don't just start throwing bricks together randomly, right? You need a solid foundation, clear structural supports, and a design that can literally weather any storm. Well, the exact same principle applies to the institutions that govern our national economies. We're going to look at the source material detailing the modernization of a central bank's institutional architecture, and I'm really excited to see exactly how they construct these safeguards right alongside you.
It all starts with this one high-stakes question. Who watches the people who control your money? It's a huge premise. A central bank, it isn't just a regular bank down the street, it's the beating heart of an entire economy. If the governance of that institution is flawed, every single one of us feels the impact in our daily lives, from the cost of your weekly groceries to the ultimate security of your life savings. So how do you actually design a system that keeps that immense power in check?
Okay, let's dive into this. Here is our construction schedule for today. First up, the governance firewall. Number 2, rewriting the rules. Third, upgrading the machine. Fourth, the 18-month roadmap. And finally, number 5, why it all matters.
Part 1. The governance firewall.
This is the first major structural change required in any modern central bank, and it revolves around a very simple yet totally game-changing concept. The board is completely separate from management. Think of it like a car. Management is in the driver's seat. They've got their hands on the steering wheel, driving the car on a daily basis. The board, on the other hand, they aren't driving. They are setting the destination, mapping the route, and watching the speedometer to make sure the car doesn't go off the road. The board handles policy and oversight, while management handles execution and operations. Because, let's be real, you cannot have the person driving the car also acting as the sole judge of whether they're driving safely.
So what exactly does management do? Well, their mandate is incredibly hands-on. The governor acts as the CEO, working alongside deputy governors, the chief financial officer, the chief risk officer, and various departmental directors. Their daily job is to execute monetary policy operations. They manage the foreign exchange, or FX reserves. They implement supervisory and regulatory functions, keep the payment systems running smoothly, and oversee the whole shebang, the vast internal operations of the bank itself. It's a massive, incredibly complex operational load.
Now, what's really interesting about this slide is the introduction of strict boundaries to structurally prevent conflicts of interest. Because management is doing all that heavy lifting we just talked about, the blueprint mandates that they absolutely must not vote on policy decisions. No way. They cannot sit on board committees, and they cannot influence board deliberations. This firewall structurally ensures that the people executing the tasks aren't the ones grading their own performance.
Moving on to part 2, rewriting the rules.
You see, you're going to have a great idea for a firewall, but if it isn't cemented into the actual legal foundation of the institution, it's virtually useless. The rules of the game just have to change. The source material details specific legislative amendments required, specifically to the governing legislation, the MMA Act, to make this new firewall permanent. They need to insert explicit clauses to codify this role separation. That means it becomes legally binding that board members cannot hold executive roles. Furthermore, to break up the consolidation of power at the very top, the governor, who we established acts as the CEO, cannot chair the board. This legally ensures the driver and the driving inspector are, without a doubt, two different people. Next up, we look at autonomy provisions. Our source material outlines rules to ensure the bank's operational independence. First, it prohibits direct government financing except under very strict emergency rules. Second, it protects board members from arbitrary dismissal. This is simply a structural mechanism. It's designed to insulate monetary policy decisions from short-term political pressures, ensuring the bank can operate independently based purely on economic data. And to balance that autonomy, the rules mandate intense transparency and integrity protocols. The central bank must publish its monetary policy statements, its meeting minutes, and its audited financial statements. On top of that, there's strict fit and proper requirements for staff. That means mandatory conflict of interest disclosures and baseline standards for competence and experience. If the bank is going to act independently, the public needs a clear, unobstructed window into exactly how and why decisions are being made.
All right, part 3, upgrading the machine.
We've laid the legal foundation, we've set up the firewall, and now it's time to install the technological and analytical wiring of the institution. The blueprint calls for the establishment of a monetary policy secretariat. Now, I know that sounds like a lot of heavy institutional jargon, but let's break it down. It is simply the essential research and forecasting engine of the bank. It's a dedicated technical unit that supports the Monetary Policy Committee by doing the really complex math, inflation forecasting, analyzing market liquidity, and running advanced economic models. It basically ensures that when the rule makers make a decision, they're backed by the absolute best possible data.
Let's move to and see how this builds, step by step. Step 1 is strengthening internal audit and risk by creating an independent reporting line straight to the audit committee. Step 2 is implementing a massive enterprise risk management framework. And step 3 is bringing the institution right into the modern era with digital governance tools. We're talking secure digital board portals, secure document management, and automated supervisory dashboards. They're essentially replacing outdated paper trails with secure, instant data access.
Which brings us to part 4, the 18-month roadmap.
So how long does a massive institutional overhaul like this actually take? I mean, you don't just flip a switch and change a central bank overnight. The source material lays out a very clear logical timeline across 5 phases. Months 1 through 3 for legal design, drafting those amendments and consulting stakeholders. Months 4 to 6 focus on board reconstitution, appointing that new independent board. Months 7 to 9 tackle management restructuring, defining those executive roles and departments. Months 10 to 12 are their policy rollout, where the new transparency protocols and committees launch. And finally, months 13 to 18 are totally dedicated to institutional strengthening, building out those analytical units and deploying the new digital tools. It is a highly methodical march from drafting laws to launching tech.
And finally, part 5, why it all matters.
We've looked at the architectural blueprint, the foundation, and the wiring. But what does this finished house actually deliver for the everyday citizen? Well, these structural reforms connect directly to real-world outcomes. Clear role separation leads to improved market confidence, which helps lower inflation expectations. Independent risk functions actively reduce systemic vulnerabilities in the financial sector. Transparent reporting strengthens parliamentary oversight and public trust. So the crucial point is this: a well-governed, structurally sound central bank directly correlates to market stability. It literally means the money in your pocket is better protected against volatility and inflation.
The ultimate outcome of this entire 18-month blueprint is a modernized, efficient central bank. By combining digital governance, streamlined management structures, and unshakable firewalls, the institution actively reduces systemic vulnerabilities and secures public trust. At the end of the day, they've built a house that can withstand the economic weather.
And that leaves us with this final thought. We've seen how strict rules, separate roles, and required transparency take power out of the shadows and put it right there on paper. So I leave you with this. When the rules governing our money are truly transparent and the decision makers are held fully accountable to the public eye, who ultimately holds the power? Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer. Keep questioning, keep learning, and I'll catch you next time.